rock climbing before? Okay, that's pretty good. How many of you guys could confidently go to a mountain, assuming you had all the right gear, and set up and know exactly what you were doing? All right, perfect. So, well, that's what I was looking for. I was going to teach you guys today. So, I've been rock climbing for 7 or 8 years now. I do sport climbing. It's a really good way to exercise, and there's a lot of mountains in SLO, and I'm local, so it's a really good sport to get into in this area. So, actually, in fact, there was an article published by Sport Journal that says climbing has been growing incredibly in popularity in the last 20 years, and it's actually going to be considered for the 2020 Olympics, so looking forward to that. So yeah, I'm really passionate about rock climbing. I just wanted to share how to get into rock climbing with you guys. So how to do that, two best ways is to know your equipment and how to use it, and also how to set up once you actually get onto the mountain. So I'm going to start with the equipment. There are 3 types of equipment. There's the attire, so clothing you're going to be wearing. There's the belay equipment, and then there's going to be the actual climbing equipment. So for attire, that's going to be your gear, your shoes and your helmet. The helmet actually, according to a sports medicine journal, is one of the most important pieces of gear for rock climbing because, unsurprisingly, falling injuries are one of the leading injuries in rock climbing, so a helmet will greatly decrease that risk. And then shoes, they don't matter too much if you're a beginner climber, but when you start getting into the more technical climbing, it's a nicer pair of shoes can really make the difference, so you're always going to want to make sure you have the right shoes for the right climb. And then for just general clothing, I didn't bring any specifically today, but you're going to want to wear something tight, but not too tight, and that's flexible, so you can move around, but you're also not going to catch on the rocks while you're climbing. So moving on to the belay equipment. The belay equipment is going to be used by the belayer, who sits at the base of the mountain and manages your rope for you. So, that's going to include a belay device and then carabiners for this specific demonstration. So a belay device, something like this, it's a way that allows the rope to catch so that the belayer can lock off the rope so that in case you fall, you're not going to fall all the way down the mountain. But it also lets you loosen it and then give you slack so that the climber can climb, obviously, higher. So yeah, there's different types of belay devices. I'm not going to get into it because I don't really have time, but that's what they're used for. And then a carabiner is just a general piece of belay equipment, and it's useful for getting your rope tied off and into your harness, and it keeps everything secure for the lock. So it's a really useful piece of technology. Actually, a mechanical engineer from the University of Arkansas actually did his thesis on the safety of climbing gear and how it relates to mechanical engineering, obviously. And he discovered that climbing technology in this day and age rarely, if ever, fails because there have been huge advances recently in the technology used. All right, so moving on to the climbing equipment. This is the equipment you're going to physically be carrying on you. So it's the stuff that you see here. It helps you get up while staying safe. That's going to include things like the quick draw, which is shown right here. This is used to clip into the leads that are pre-drilled into the mountain. So while you're climbing, you actually put the quick draw onto the lead, and you route your rope through it. So it sort of acts as an anchor point while you're climbing, so that if you fall, you're only going to fall as far as your last quick draw. So you can sort of think of it as a checkpoint while you're climbing. There's also a figure 8 here, which is used to descend once you're at the top. You just wrap your rope around it, and you can descend all the way down safely and quickly. All right, so moving on to the setup. First of all, you need to know your limits. A study published by the Wilderness and Medicine Handbook actually notes that knowing your limits while climbing is one of the best ways to prevent an injury. So that's the first step of setup. The next step is to know your gear and know how it works. So all gear is going to work a little bit differently. So most gear comes with a manual. so you can read it, get familiar with it, test it out before you climb. Then after that, you need to go to the mountain, scope it out, make sure you know where to go and how to be safe. And yeah, so in conclusion, knowing your equipment and knowing how to set up is a great way to get into rock climbing because there's a lot of information, so it's really good to just start with the basics and just work your way up. It's a really great community, and yeah, thank you.